Hi, everyone. I think that we're going to get started. Thank you all so much for being here, and welcome to AI in Action, Prudential's Marketing Transformation. My name is Elena Stanisi, and a little bit about me. I'm a senior marketing student at Fordham. I'm also the president of the Fordham Marketing Association, which is Fordham's official chapter of the American Marketing Association. Being here tonight is truly so special. This is the first time that our chapter of the AMA has ever collaborated with the AMA New York. So we're really just so thankful for all of you and so excited to be here, speaking for myself and a lot of the students in this room. I'm so excited for an insightful conversation on AI and hearing Prudential's story. But before we dive into what's going to be an incredible next few hours, I'm going to hand it over to Nancy Cardenas, who I've had the pleasure of working with on this event.
Hello. For those of you new to the American Marketing Association, we're a global community dedicated to advancing the practice and impact of marketing. The New York chapter is one of our flagship communities, hosting year-round programming that connects and inspires marketers across all industries. From panel discussions and webinars to networking mixers, our mission is to help marketers learn, lead, connect, and grow together. We're especially excited about today's session, AI in Action, because it brings to life what successful adoption of AI really looks like. A recent MIT study showed that 95% of AI projects fail. Today, we're highlighting one of the 5% that succeed. It's a real example of transformation in action. It's my pleasure to introduce our panelists from Prudential, Lily Raymond, head of MarTech, Ashley Tourettes, director of generative AI, and our moderator, Patrick Vergara from Norm AI. Before we dive in, I want to thank our sponsors for making this evening possible. Norm AI, the legal and compliance AI company helping the world's most regulated industries move faster, reduce risk, and unlock growth across critical legal, compliance, and business workflows. Oleata, maker of premium luxury bags, has kindly provided gift cards to all attendees. And of course, Fordham University for hosting us and for being such a valued partner. With that, let's get started and explore what it takes to make AI ambition into action.
All right, well, the 5% that succeed, that's such a nice way to start. Thank you for that. And looking forward to the discussion. We've prepared some questions and we kind of have a sense of what we'll discuss, but hopefully it'll be a good dynamic discussion. And just so everybody has context, we all know each other from having worked together. So that'll hopefully come through as we go. So we'll get started. I think we'll skip intros unless either of you have anything you want to say at the top. No?
One thing I would say, if it's okay, I'd love to share more about my role.
Yeah, by all means.
I think it might be applicable. So my background, I can't believe I'm saying this on camera, but I have been working in marketing for about 19 years. And the last year and a half is when I officially switched over to more of a marketing operations generative AI role. So I'm officially director of generative AI at Prudential. And I use a lot of my marketing background over the last 19 years that I've gained to really apply it to how we execute AI and marketing. And I really think my role especially is helpful, just to kind of give you all context that my role really is championing AI and also ensuring that we are helping all 400 of our marketers or so to utilize it. So I'm the one that's helping with the strategy and the roadmap, but then also I'm teaching. So I'm presenting, doing many presentations like this as well to really evangelize what we're doing and transform what we're doing in marketing.
Lily, why don't you do the same?
I lead the marketing, technology, creative, and operations team at Prudential. I've got 20 years experience really focused on modern marketing transformation, really ensuring that marketing is operating as a strategic growth driver. 2 years ago, we posted a position that Ashley's referenced for a generative AI director. And at the time, the feedback I got from folks was like, what is this person going to do? And you'll see today everything that has taken place. And you'll see why Ashley's also at capacity. But it is really the best hire that we've made. And we're just so excited to share with you everything that, all the successes in the 5%.
Yes, these are both tremendous people, all rounded out. I'm Patrick, I'm the COO at Norm. I have a background in AI, software, and law. I was a co-founder at an AI company before Norm, focused on AI and ML for investment operations and data workflows and financial services. This was before the ChatGPT moment and using the prior generation of the technology that was a little bit harder to use and definitely could not do any of the things that are possible now. To your point about this role 2 years ago, things looked so different. They look so different today. 4 years ago, even more so. Also was on the founding team at a regulatory technology company. It was a platform for broker-dealers and investment advisors to basically manage compliance obligations. But it also had a marketing angle because we were injecting the brand voice of our clients into different kinds of regulated communications. And then, like many people at Norm, I'm an attorney as well. So I started my career as a practicing lawyer. And that is not unique at Norm AI. We have a lot of lawyers that work at the company, and they build the AI systems that we deploy for our clients. Firms like Prudential, they actually are created by attorneys at Norm that we call legal engineers, who are able to interface with our clients from the compliance perspective, but also from the brand and marketing perspective to help them get different things done. So now we'll jump into some questions. And the first one is does anyone sort of not know what Prudential is? I think, because it says, my question starts, everyone knows a Prudential name, but I want to confirm. I'd be surprised if there was someone in the audience who hadn't heard of it. All right, that makes sense. But it'd be interesting to kind of take a step back and orient ourselves around what is Prudential, what drives your brand purpose as a company. So Lily, we'll start with you. If you could give us some insight into that, because I think it's an important way for us to get started.
Absolutely. So this year we are celebrating our 150th anniversary. And that is remarkable for a company in today's age. And that is built on a legacy of trust, dependability, and protection. But what really drives our purpose is, and the purpose is behind me, what really drives it is the belief that everybody is entitled to access to financial security. And it is that belief that continues to drive us. And the reason we've stayed so relevant is that we have evolved and adapted to meet changing consumer needs, and also how the definition of financial security has changed throughout their lives and across different generations. So it's with that purpose that we hold so dear that we continue to evolve, and especially, looking for ways to reimagine how we are connecting with customers and how we're delivering on that promise, especially in the age of AI today.
Yeah, it's a tremendous firm, and it's been a privilege for us to work with Prudential so closely and get to sort of learn about it from that, that close collaborative perspective, and that really resonates. You all care so deeply about this mission and what you just articulated there. And Ashley, I don't know if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, that was fantastic. Nothing to add.
Nothing to add? Yeah. Well, it's a 150-year-old company. And your logo is the Rock of Gibraltar, right? That you're making quite a point with that. You're saying, that, and it really is, I think, one of the great logos out there. But how do you balance that long legacy of trust and of this purpose that you articulated with the very, very important need to innovate and to stay relevant and to do strategic things to stay on the leading edge? Like, how do you reconcile those two parts of your identity as a company?
Yeah, so it's important to note that, like Lily said, the world is evolving, and so Prudential needs to evolve with it. We're very fortunate that we've been around for 150 years and have built that trust with our customers. People know the name, they know who we are. But in balancing kind of and moving forward, we need to really make sure that everything we do is focused on that customer still, even if we are using AI, and understanding the pulse on what's happening in the world. And so it is a balance, it's a delicate balance, But it's important that we're always staying close to our customers and the advisors that we serve that are bringing these financial solutions to the market.
And those two constituencies, the customers and the advisors, maybe you want to double click on that a bit, because I think it's an interesting distinction that people might find relevant.
So what many people don't realize is that Prudential caters to the advisor side, meaning that you need to work with a licensed professional to buy one of our products. That's a financial advisor. But then we also are wanting to connect our community with financial leadership, so ultimately the financial advisor. So when we say consumers, we actually have a network of about 3,000, 4,000 or so advisors across the country, and we're helping them with sales enablement and best practices and ensuring that they're able to connect with their communities as well. So that's the consumer side.
And from our perspective and the work we've done together, those two groups and the marketing and the content you're putting out to those different audiences, there are important distinctions and the ways that you kind of get that out there, how you're telling the story through those different channels.
Yep.
I don't know if either of you want to remark on that, maybe Lily.
Sure, absolutely. So it is complex. So we're primarily B2B, but we also have some business units that, like group insurance, that we're also marketing to employers and to employees. So B to B to C. And then we are also, you'll see, our ads on television, right? And, in at events that, that we are sponsoring, because we're also trying to reach the end consumer. So when that end consumer, right, like all of us, goes to meet with an advisor, and the advisor is recommending Prudential products, or even better yet, if the advisor doesn't, that the consumer can ask for those products. So it's really that recognition and the trust that we're also building with the end consumer. So it is a little bit of a complex ecosystem, even, and just saying we're B2B sometimes, doesn't do it justice. Yeah.
The one thing I did not mention initially was I spent 3 years inside Prudential Advisors. So I was getting into the mindset of the advisor, so learning more of the product side, but then also being mindful of the consumer side as well.
Yeah, and I think, since we started with that statistic, around 95% of AI initiatives have failed and maybe 5% have succeeded. And what leads to success, I think being able to reflect those kinds of differences. If you have, for example, a client like Prudential that has a lot of complexity in its own ecosystem and a lot of different things that you have to be able to address, you have to be able to approach them with a solution that can actually map against that. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful. So.
Well, and then the one thing I'll add too is the complexity in terms of the target market, but also in our products. Our products are very complex. We're in one of the most highly regulated industries. And, in addition to life insurance, annuities, but also there's the whole asset management side and the whole institutional business where we're selling, we're pension risk transfer and insurance overlay. So you really need to, distill those products to meet the needs, and then also be able to communicate those to all those different target markets.
And all right, so this is there's a big question, but I think to kind of start to talk about the AI journey at Prudential, that you've been on. So when did you start your AI journey, and what was what is it about this moment that made it the right time to really lean into the use of AI in marketing?
Yeah, I'll take that, and Ashley, you can jump in, please. So we started our journey 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, and we started it when we began to implement modern marketing capabilities. So the Adobe platform, for example, working with our CRM platforms, because we wanted to really drive personalization and experimentation. So that's when we started realizing that to personalize and to experiment and to test things out on the website, for example, that requires a lot of content. And our marketing teams were already at capacity, because this was on top of the demands that we were seeing from marketing. New product launches, so you add all that. And that's where we really, were intrigued by AI. Could AI help this capacity, issue, this challenge that we're seeing? So that is when we began.
And I always say that there was a meeting that changed my life. Just by chance, I was invited to a meeting to talk more about this new product. It was called Adobe Generate Variations that ultimately used OpenAI to create content. And so we worked on this project where we chose a page on Prudential.com, and we decided that we were going to completely redo it with generative AI. And at the time, it was so new. In fact, Adobe was using us as a POC. We were piloting it to see what would happen. And what we found was with Adobe Target and this new generated content, we were able to create 3 different versions of the landing page that ultimately increased our engagement on the page 135%. And that was when, absolutely when, we knew we had something really special and we needed to focus on it. And at the time, I was also interviewing for the role, so try
That's
before
cool.
you buy, I guess.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very cool story. I thought you were going to say it was your first Norm AI demo, but
That came later.
that's fine. It's okay. We can talk about that later. No, but I mean that must 2 years ago. That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
That literally was the story.
Yeah, that's incredible. All right, so what did you learn early on about introducing AI into a highly regulated environment? I mean, 3 different versions of a landing page, that sounds cool, but you're marketing annuities, you're marketing, insurance. Like these are regulated products. 3 different versions of the landing page have 3 different sets of many considerations.
Potentially,
So so what were some learnings there?
So AI does what we tell it to do for the most part. So we can give it rules, right? But then we also keep human at the center. So in addition to the marketing professionals using it, we also have humans on the end side actually reviewing what's happening as well. So I think it's more than just saying like, oh, this was generative content, but we also used content that was previously created to build the pages too. So that made our compliance team much more comfortable. That was pre-norm.
Pre-norm.
And now they're like all in. They're like, oh, I can't wait to use this. So
Yeah, there you go.
yeah.
Do you have anything to add to that? The challenges of using AI in a regulated environment, or maybe the opportunities too? It doesn't have to all be about how the challenges. I don't know.
I think, very fortunately for us in marketing at Prudential is that we have the full support of our executive leadership team. So they were very supportive and actually were pushing us, to explore AI. So it's really great when you have that support from the top. And you're not only, grassroots. So that was one. And I think, in terms of bringing our compliance and legal partners in, we had a steering committee. We brought in folks earlier, much earlier than, maybe they wanted to. But really started to bring them in to be educated at the same time that we were also learning.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I'll also add that in 2023 is when we established our Responsible AI Committee. So Responsible AI is a combination of privacy, risk, legal. We also have technology folks on there that are reviewing every use case and what we plan to do with AI. So there are checks and balances. There are no robots involved in that particular process because we want to make sure that we're doing all the right things and having all the right checks. Since that was started in 2023, I mean, that really helped us pave the way. We wouldn't be able to get here fast enough if we didn't have that established. I still have conversations today with other regulated industries. They're like, I can't get anything through. And then I'm like, well, you come have them talk to me or have them talk to Lily. We're Fortune 500, 150 years. Like, let's have the conversation. We can help.
Talk to Ashley and Lily. I think that is advice I would give anybody about anything, but especially that, and how to have a framework to onboard AI in this environment, and and do that responsibly while covering all your bases. There's a lot to think about. There are a lot of different areas. Oh, we got a slide.
Oh,
There you go.
there you go.
Yeah.
Here are some of the considerations.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to speak to that at all.
Yeah, so I will. So we don't do AI for the sake of AI. I think what is very powerful about my role as well as Lily's, because Lily is a marketing ninja, she hasn't admitted that yet, but ultimately, we have to measure what we're doing, and we have to choose the right use cases that will have the most impact. And everyone is using AI as this cool buzzword, but it's kind of more or less like, okay, well, like, what is that helping us achieve? And so a lot of the time, it's more about the business strategy and then how AI will augment that, and then have the checks and balances and the measurement falling, behind it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the business strategy, though, I got to start with that. Did you want to?
No. I the only thing I was going to say is like evaluating and vetting the tools, the platforms, was also so critical, because to be approved through the Responsible AI Council or our Enterprise Architectural Review Board, which is another hurdle we have to go through. We also need to make sure that these can scale, that they can be integrated, that they're enterprise grade. They pass the security, the privacy, all of that. I mean, it's so critical. So that is another part of working with different partners to really vet these different solutions.
Yep. We haven't gone through that. I can say that it's comprehensive and thorough. So, all right, well, we've talked about the business strategy. You got to start with that. What were the biggest pain points that you were trying to solve for? I mean, you don't do AI for the sake of it.
So, absolutely.
Why do you do it? Yeah, let's start with that.
Absolutely. So, the pain points that we were trying to solve. So, as I mentioned originally, we really were trying to solve the pain point of content. So, to personalize an experiment, you could need 5 to 10 times the content that you produce. When you think of all the channels, the campaigns, the segments, the micro segments, the variations, the versioning, all of that, that's a lot of content. So we started to solve that particular business problem. But then we looked across what I have up here, the marketing value chain. And because what we started to see is that when you're producing all that content, we started to see that it was creating bottlenecks further down the process. So for example, we had the same exact number of reviewers who were also on my team, 10 people who review almost all the marketing content. Well, now they have 5 to 10 times the content that they need to review. And so things start to slow down, right? And that causes a bottleneck. And then you take that, so that was our next priority, is really helping the content move through the process. And then after that, we encountered an issue where, well, all that content has to get executed, it has to get published in digital channels. Well, that's another challenge, right? So we have a team of content authors. They build pages. They create the content, the pages. The pages have to be ADA compliant. You think of all these processes, so you can't just push, create all this content at the beginning, because you really have to solve for the other challenges throughout. So those were our priorities, and those are really all around productivity, speed to market, right? Accelerating speed to market. But then we are also now, now that we've solved a lot of those challenges, really looking at, well, how can we drive sales? How can we drive revenue? Can we, help the wholesalers reach more advisors? And that's sort of the next set of priorities that we're looking at.
And because I think it's an interesting example of the many different things you have to think through, and the story you told around 5 to 10 times more content, going through the same number of reviewers. Well, what do you do then? Do you say, can you please work 10 times as hard or as quickly? Not feasible, right, obviously. But because I think it's an interesting kind of example of the many different knock-on effects that introducing a technology as fundamentally transformative as AI can deliver. Maybe like just talking briefly about, because we see our little logo up there, like our role, and why is this legal and compliance company here in this panel about
absolutely.
AI? Like, what does this have to do with anything?
I think it's a good segue into the use cases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
So we can talk a little bit more about the use cases, but if anyone has any specific questions. But because we are creating so much more content, we knew that we needed to have a smart system to help us get through it very quickly. And so in particular, when you think about that flyer that you're getting with changing rules and regs and uploading it into something, a human has to review that every time, and sometimes from multiple states, right?
Oh yeah.
So given all of that, it's painstaking. It's really hard to do that. And so when we were looking at how much more content we were all creating, we said, okay, now we need this opportunity where we actually have more help to review it. And something that I love that Norm is doing for us is the fact that it's bringing the things that our humans need to focus on, our human reviewers need to focus on, it's bringing it to their attention. And it's saying, hey, this is incompatible, this doesn't make sense. And more than that, instead of going back and forth with the business and fighting over what words that they're going to say, they actually say, okay, well, here's recommended language that you can use. So that saves significant amount of time for our marketing team and for our businesses to get to market too.
That was absolutely a game changer, because what was happening is that it was going back. If it was rejected by our compliance team, then it would go back to the copywriters and the creative team. They'd have to come up with other wording. Then it would go back through compliance, and we had a pretty decent rejection rate. And so what Norm's also helped us with is the actual the submitters, the marketers who are submitting the content into the experiences, the content into our compliance team. They also can use Norm to make sure that the content's in good order. And so it reduces that rejection rate, and it really streamlines the whole process, and it actually accelerates the whole campaign process. So you're not having this back and forth, as Ashley mentioned. So by moving the review further up the funnel, the marketers themselves can really begin to understand, the disclosures, our policies, the state insurance regulation, promissory language, all of that, to make sure that they're tackling that before submitting it into compliance.
And I think, again, that stat at the beginning, sobering statistic, why is that the case? Why do a lot of things fail? It's because they don't have this level of thought behind the end-to-end, right? You're not thinking through what happens next. Okay, so you introduce it here, then what? And then what happens after that? And where does the process actually end? And what if we do more of this, but now we can't do that all of a sudden? There's so much to it. So it's interesting, so interesting to hear you both reflect on it. And there are obviously a lot of different companies in this space and a lot of firms doing different things with AI. So maybe Ashley, you can talk a little bit about what's important when selecting AI partners? Like, what are you looking for? What sets one solution apart from the other?
Yeah, so we don't select partners without testing them first. So either POC or pilot, those are two words that we use internally. They both actually mean different things. But I think it's not only the platform itself, but again, to go back to the use case, like what are we trying to solve, right? We need those requirements up front. I'm talking like a big product owner now, but requirements up front for sure. How are we gonna measure success? Like all of those things are really important. But in addition, we need to make sure that we're partnering with the right companies. So that vetting process is rigorous on purpose, not just the tech side, but then also we want our own employees to give us feedback on how it worked. We don't just sign up with any organization. We want to make sure that it's the right product for us. And then lastly, from a tech perspective, it's important to note that we need flexibility. So one of the things that I'm very excited about is how well Norm can integrate with our own platforms, because we are an Adobe shop. We do use Workfront.
Right, of course, yep.
We need folks and partners. I don't even like the word vendor. The word vendor is a dirty word to me. Partner. Yeah, exactly. It's important that you can work with that group or those organizations to make sure that your whole technical landscape is sound as well.
Yeah. Partner, not vendor.
Yeah, and I'll just add too, the integration is so important because the users don't want to go into multiple platforms to complete a task.
Right.
One for content, one for all of that. So it really does need to be integrated. And Norm is actually technically our first AI agent.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's tremendous. I don't know if I knew that, but and that's another wave of the technology, right? You have generative AI, and you have agentic AI, and you have multi-agent systems. You've got, the field is advancing so rapidly. That's cool.
Yes.
That's very, very cool. And I've also just from our perspective as a firm that partners with companies like Prudential, if you cannot address those kinds of requirements in a pretty direct way, you have absolutely no business even starting the conversation. If you're not willing to really get into it, and of course you have to show up with a product that has some shape to it and does something specific, but on the edges, if you're not going to be able to accommodate your preferences or whatever, clients' preferences, you're not going to be successful because you're a 150-year-old company with a huge amount of things going on and a very complicated workflow, and we can't ask you to change everything you're doing so that you can then work with us. And so it's a two-way street, and that's where the partner thing, I think, comes in, and that integration and those different points you outlined, I think, are good examples of that. All right, so one thing, people like myself and other partners, not vendors, hear a lot or think through a lot is, our clients or prospective clients making decisions around building something or buying something, right? This build versus buy is a very, very hot topic now, I think, honestly, with generative AI more than anything, because you can decide to build virtually anything to some extent these days. I think that's definitely worth admitting. But so how do you decide when you're going to do that? Because you have engineers, you have teams of people at Prudential that could actually build quite a bit, and they have. So how do you make that decision?
Yes. That's such an important decision, and we typically build for differentiation, or when we're dealing with proprietary data, customer data, and the capabilities are not proven. The market's not mature enough. That's in general. We do look to buy to accelerate when there are proven capabilities. But I would say, going back to what Ashley and Patrick said, the most important thing is being able to integrate and embed in our ecosystem. So whether we build, whether we buy, that is so important. And I know, Ashley, if you want to, because I know there's a lot.
Yeah.
We do have experience building.
We do have it. Well, so what's really interesting is we actually brought on a partner that helps us build things too.
Yeah.
So for more like low-hanging fruit, easy use cases, it's so easy even I can do it. So we use a platform by the name of Writer. And Writer is known because in the name, it writes content. Yes, fine, perfect. But they also have a complete agent studio where you can literally, through prompt engineering, create and deploy your own agents. And you can have data connectors and a number of things, which is really helpful and flexible. We're not doing it with proprietary data. That's one of the guardrails that we follow. But what was interesting is Lily and I were working on a mentorship program, and she had the idea that we wanted to use AI for the mentorship program. We had about 80 or so mentees, and then we had mentors to match them up with. And I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? So I went right into Writer through prompting. I actually said, okay, this is the list of mentees. This is their responses to a survey that we put out there. Now, hey, find the best mentor. Give me the 2 best mentor options for them. And it did it. And if you think about it from an HR perspective, employee perspective, you want to find the best mentor for this person. But think about how many hours that would take for 80 people. It's a long time. So Writer, in this case, helped me do it very quickly. And again, if I can do it, anyone can do it. Yeah.
No, that's a great example.
You remember that? I love
absolutely.
That. We have other examples too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can talk about some.
And the feedback was good. It was really good. I know that my mentees, I was very pleased with the connection. So
it's good at matching
Ashley
people.
Intelligence.
Yeah, making
Ashley
friends.
There's one other one actually.
All right.
It's more business focused, so this is probably more. How many people like surveys? You probably don't like answering the survey, but do you like getting the data from the surveys? Okay. Okay, good. All the hands went up. So everyone's hand went down when I said, do you like filling out surveys? So we have over a dozen listening posts that we call them. We're part of our Voice of the Customer group, and we are using Medallia to get the data. At the time, Medallia didn't have a lot of AI embedded into the platform, so we actually built a Voice of the Customer summary agent inside of Writer. And if you think thousands of verbatims that we're receiving monthly. Being able to take that data, put it into generative AI, pull out the key themes, pull out even where the important verbatims, like where they came from within the survey data. But here's the best part. Because it's an LLM, I call it giving a spark. So you don't always know how to fix a problem, but these analysts now were able to quickly put a report together in a matter of hours that give the business their key next steps or thoughts for how they can affect some and change what's happening from their NPS scores. So when we started, it would take anywhere from 5 to 7 days to put together a report. We were actually decreasing our time by 50% and more for most cases. So it was only taking 2 or 3 days to put the reports together.
Wow.
Yeah.
And we've talked about our use case, those 2 use cases. Are there any others that you want to highlight where you've been able to deliver value for marketers, customers?
Yeah. I'll take the agent that came after Norm.
You were the first. You heard it here first.
That are our content authoring, publishing agent. So, as I mentioned, so now you have the content, now it's getting reviewed with the help of Norm, right? So much faster, 35 to 50% faster. And remember, this content, a lot of it still needs human eyes, but it's really, as Ashley mentioned, really surfacing things much faster and making recommendations. But that all has to get published, right? Usually this is primarily digital content. So we do have a partner, Gradial, and they allow us to, they work in the Adobe ecosystem, and so they enable the publishing of an Adobe compliant and ADA compliant page through a design file, a brief, a Word document, or a prompt. So we have just onboarded that agent. We did a pilot, and Ashley can speak more to that. But we're so excited about the possibilities, and we've seen just tremendous success as well.
And I don't know if we're going to talk about change management or kind of how we do it, but I will say I treat our AI capabilities like a product, meaning I market it to our team. I want them to know what we have. Yeah. I mean, especially when you're trying to transform an organization, right? It's a big part of it. So I call it the Gradial Sizzle Reel. I don't have it here, otherwise I'd love to share everyone.
Yes.
But I will say that our CMO loved it. He was like, "This is amazing. Like, we need this right now." Because what I'm finding is, anyway, that I love to create. So being creative and writing the content is fun, but publishing it and like filling out a form and like trying to get things done is not as fun. So if we can use something like Gradial to help us get to market faster, and it builds the content for us, and we have a finished product faster, it's a win-win for everybody.
And the results are outstanding. I mean, I think we've got 200% up here, or 100% plus.
Yeah.
It's way higher than that. The numbers were so high that we
didn't believe it.
We didn't even believe it.
Like 87 times faster
Exactly.
to build a page and things like that. There's also a lot of work, quite candidly, that is really hard to do. So we mentioned multiple times, we just turned 150. Well, on Pru.com, the numbers were inconsistent. We had 145 plus, 145, 140, all these things. So we actually ran that test in the POC with Gradial, and we said, okay, now let's run the test to do the audit. It originally took 10 hours alone just to find all of those spots. And then when we ran it with Gradial, we actually turned 10 hours into 10 minutes.
Wow.
Which is incredible. So from an auditing perspective, so yes, the content part is the sexy part, don't get me wrong, but from an auditing perspective, ADA, making sure that we even have proper SEO tags, metadata, all of that can also be used as well.
Yeah, wow, that is very impactful.
And I'll just mention a use case that's not on the slide above is we're really, like many other companies, seeing the decline of SEO traffic. And we are really focused on how do we show up, right, where consumers are. So consumers are using LLMs to search, especially in the area of insurance, finance. And by the time they make it to your website, they're really just making sure that the information is accurate, but likely made their decision. So as we're seeing that change in consumer behavior, we're really looking at not just the technical aspects of how we show up or internally for our website, allowing LLMs, and externally where we are, because LLMs source, quite a bit from sources like Reddit and other community forums. I see a lot of head nods. And we also need to make sure, like, how are we authoring our content, right? Is it in the way that users are prompting? Is it conversational? Is it FAQ based? So those are all things that we are looking at and working on right now.
And I mean, I think we talked about the KPIs and the metrics that, this is coming through a lot, and all the things that you're both saying. I'm not sure if there's anything further on that point that you'd want to kind of elaborate on, kind of like how do you seek to measure the performance of these kinds of systems? But, obviously some of the stats that you threw out there are pretty surprising. Anything else on the KPI or measurement front?
I'll just talk about subjective, if we want to talk about some of the subjective KPIs, because we have a lot of the hard-hitting ones, on the slide above, and we've spoken about those. But really the attitude of the employees, right? So we have 70% adoption of the Writer platform, which is extremely high. Over 300 marketers, 70% adoption, within that group. But also, and we may not have it on the slide, but some of these quotes. So very thankful to a lot of the work that Ashley did too, but we turned, many employees 2 years ago that were very skeptical, that are, super excited and have become the biggest advocates for us. And I know that really surprised me. You take, folks who are super skeptical, and then, when we first introduced Writer, we actually took it away. We piloted it for 2 weeks, and we took it away. We didn't mandate how anyone used it. We didn't force anyone to use it, but we took it away, and there was an uproar.
Yeah.
So that is how we knew that we had something that was very helpful for employees.
Yeah. I think the first time I used ChatGPT, you put something in and it gives you this answer and you're like, wow, that's powerful, right? But imagine being a writer, a copywriter for 20 years, seeing that. The fear that came out of the team was real, but the messaging that we used was really important, and we believe it, right? So I believe that the vision comes from humans. The creativity, the brilliant aspects of creativity comes from the human. AI is just there to help you get there, make it come to fruition. And so I would have a lot of, I would say, offline and online conversations with folks that wanted to talk to me to learn more about what I did and what my mission was. And truly, I knew a lot of people in marketing from my former role, but I didn't know everybody. And the folks that I needed to establish relationships with were really important. So I would hold not only one-on-one, I call them AI therapy sessions, but I also built a platform where we have these monthly user calls where people come and they bring their examples and they bring their questions. But then I also want to use it as a platform to recognize those that are doing it well. So I actually invite them to bring their use cases, bring their ideas, and then I also give them recognition points through our recognition program so their leader sees how great of an impact they're having.
Wow, that's great.
And we've given away quite a bit of merch.
We have.
So we need some merchandise.
We have a lot of merch. We can get some good merch.
I love my beach
I mean,
bag.
but I think anything like this that can do the job potentially, or do large parts of the job of, for example, a copywriter, or at least kickstart the process in a way that's very dramatic, or perform a highly specialized review of this marketing content against many regulations and many policies and brand standards, and give you feedback that is very, very close to what the team's doing it today. There's always a curve there, and people do need to, I think, be kind of heard in how they're going to use the technology. And we had some of that as well early on with the team, and just getting people used to it, and how would we use it, and how will this work in practice. And I think it's been rewarding to kind of see that play out. and it's a different kind of a use case, and it's a more focused, but it's a similar pattern.
I would say very similar.
Yeah.
I mean, in each of these use cases, there was a fear. It's not just the in-house creative agency and the copywriter, it's even the folks reviewing the marketing materials for compliance purposes. I mean, that also was fearful, right? Because this is my job. But it is helping you do more with less. It is actually giving you that peace of mind because the accuracy is incredible. It's almost 100% accurate. So that's also really helpful if that's your job, and you've got you need to make sure everything is being reviewed and it's accurate.
Yeah, they're tough jobs, and they. These people, there's a lot of pressure to do things right, to get it right, and then you have increasing complexity, increasing volumes of content, everything changing all the time, and it's just hard to keep up with, and so it's just about helping them do that.
I'm very passionate about saying that AI eliminates pain. I said that for the first time a year ago, and I still truly believe it, right? I talked about the creativity aspect of things, but with things changing, as long as you have smart folks that are helping you along and you're testing out the right things and also validating the output, just don't take AI for what it is. Make sure you're still looking at it and keeping human at the center, then you'll be successful.
I agree. I think AI is really bringing marketers closer to their customers and really helping marketers do what they do best. Because I feel like a lot of times you feel like you're a traffic controller in marketing. You have to go through all these systems and all these processes, but it really is going to help marketers really understand their customer and then look at how to truly differentiate their brand.
Yeah, we've seen that. I mean, again, it's not generating the content, but reviewing it, but what if you have more control over that process and you can do it yourself and you can kind of do a lot of that yourself, and then all of a sudden it's not getting sent back to you for another revision, it's just getting approved, and then the process is happening a lot more quickly and you're on to the next thing. And so there's a lot of that can kind of develop.
Exactly. That time you saved can go back to really thinking through your strategy, really thinking of the customer needs, really thinking of that creative strategy. You can reinvest that time.
Yep. So change management and onto thrilling topics like that, but no, it's important. So what have you both learned about managing change and kind of sustaining also momentum around things like this? We're hearing some of it, the platform, the recognition points, evangelizing it. But it's not as easy as that. There's a lot more to it. And so, this is a question for both of you, whoever wants to take it first.
So what have we learned?
Yeah, what have you learned? Yeah, about change management. It's a big topic, but just,
It's funny, I play that Eminem song in my head about, you only have one shot, one opportunity. I really believe that with AI. I don't know why. I've never said that on stage. I probably won't ever again. But
it was good. I like
it. It was good? Yeah, I
did.
Because I'll say it this way, right? Yes, being a marketing professional, I could write content, do all the digital things for days, right? But word of mouth is probably the most important thing, right? So the writer example is a really good one because the 20 people that had it, they were telling their friends about it. They were telling everyone about it. In fact, it came full circle. I didn't even tell you this yet, Lily, but one of our employees said to their husband that they were so thankful to Prudential for giving them access to these tools, so much so that he wanted to come work here.
Wow.
So it also, and my background is also an employer brand, so it really does affect the employees. So no matter what we do, we know that we are helping our employees be ready for what's next. We can't kind of dictate and envision what the future is going to be like, but we do know that we are helping to enhance their skills, so much so that they enjoy what they're doing, because my personal mission is to help every marketer love their job even more.
I completely agree. And the one thing I'll just add is nobody wants change to happen to them. They want to be part of the change. And that's where the fear is, right? So really trying to, a lot of the work that Ashley has done is also to co-create with the users, with the end users. And that's why when we first introduced our our AI, the very first content AI tool writer, we did not mandate how it is to be used. We just had a spreadsheet and say, like, do whatever you want, don't use it, try whatever you think. And somebody was like, well, can I put this really complex spreadsheet in there? It was like, yeah, I don't know, like throw it in there. And it was a complex, massive spreadsheet with product specifications, and it summarized it.
There you go.
So, but have fun with it. And then I think that's a huge part of it as well.
Do you have any Eminem quotes for us?
No, unfortunately, no. But that is a good one.
I tried. I don't know.
That's
It's just
good.
coming out of me. It's all good. You bring the best out of me, both
Mom's
of
spaghetti. Anyway, if you haven't heard that song, you don't know, but you hopefully have. Anyway, all
you.
right.
I'm not showing my age. He's cool now, I hear. I don't know. Okay.
I have no idea. I hope
Okay.
he's not like.
Well, I would say
In
what my
trouble or
kids say,
something.
stop glazing M&M.
All right.
You worked it in.
Yeah, worked it
Tell
in.
it now.
Okay, so and then last question, I think, and then maybe we can open up for some Q&A. Again, a question for the both of you because you're going to have really interesting perspectives on it. But what does the future of marketing look like in, let's just say, 5 years, just 5 years from now? Like, what skills do you need to have? What do you need to know to be able to do? I think it's obviously very relevant for the audience here. So, Lily, we'll start with you. What does it look like 5 years?
Sure. I think there is, I think authenticity is going to be huge because now everyone can generate all the content in the world. So what is authenticity and how do brands differentiate themselves? So then it kind of goes back to, well, what are the skills, the human skills that marketers need? Authenticity, judgment, really truly and deeply understanding the customer and the customer needs and what differentiates your brand. And that's where I hope the time that you save will be reinvested in understanding the customer and bringing the marketer closer to the customer. As far as skills, what I would say is curiosity. And we'll start to see these orchestration roles, right? So we talk about agents, and someone has to orchestrate those agents.
Yes.
They're not just going to be running
Definitely.
rogue, right? They need direction, right? Because garbage in, garbage out. So I do think there will be continue to be these strategic roles and marketers truly understanding the entire marketing value chain. And I don't think you need to be technical, but you really have to understand marketing.
Right.
Yeah. All of that, plus. plus. One thing that we have not really talked about was how we create reinforcement learning opportunities for the marketing side, right? So more than yes, it's so important to have the content, to have it resonate, to do the research, to do all the things. Well, what are you doing with those learnings to bring it back to the next customer, to the next thing, right? Like, I think that's the one, and even in prompting, people forget this. Give your LLM feedback. Tell ChatGPT what you hated about their output, right? Be nice to it too, just in case. But
Just
truly,
say thank you.
that's my PSA for the day. But the reinforcement learning part, I think, is going to be just as important. So kind of like from an agentic workflow perspective, the automation piece, we need to make sure that we are using our data across it responsibly. One thing that does keep me up at night about marketing and AI is that there's going to be this problem where it's people call it the content slop, the AI slop, and it just means that it's literally just junk. Like no one pays attention to it anymore. When something's written with AI,
Yes,
especially
you
if
do.
it has a ton of emojis,
Oh, yeah.
M dashes. I texted someone earlier. I was like, if you send this to me and it has M dashes, you're cooked.
They're banned at
I told
Norm
them
too.
that.
Yeah,
And I
you
was
can't
like,
use them
that's
anymore.
it, right?
Doesn't matter. I don't know. Yeah.
Exactly. So I do think it's important that we're still writing for humans, and the only way to do that is to be human and actually do it.
Yep.
And I think there'll be a premium for that.
It's going to
I
be
think
cool
we're
to be
starting
human.
to see that in the movie industry. Human authored, human created.
Yep.
So
People like that. It's important because I was just talking with David over there about TikTok, and you don't know what's real and what's not anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Right? That's a problem. Like, I want to know.
I fall for it all the time.
Do you really?
No, I don't have TikTok.
He's like, I don't have time.
Probably, I don't know.
I don't even question it sometimes. It's like, because you're right, you don't know.
I don't know. I look for the
Getting
AI
harder and
hashtag, but sometimes it's not there.
There you go. All right. Well, thank you both so much. I think we have some time for some questions now, if anyone has any.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hi there. Oh, there we go. Hi there. Your talk was great. I had a quick question about the compliance submission. I guess just wanting to know how much time, like Norma AI was saving, or like if you're submitting a piece of content with disclosure slides, does it let you know that in advance? Like, what's the difference between a human reviewing it time-wise versus Norm?
I would say on the time specifically, two metrics. 35% time savings on the review with norm versus not norm, so side by side. And we've done a number of side by side tests as well. But then I think, more importantly is this 50% decrease of the rejection rate. So it's, the rate at which something gets rejected, then it has to make its way back to business or other teams and copywriters. And it just, and this is why everyone blames the compliance team. It's like everything takes long. Well, it doesn't take long. It just takes long because it's sent back.
Yeah.
And then that adds to the cycle time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And anything, Ashley, if you want to.
No, you said it great. Thank you.
Yeah, and that, because the 50% is important, because that's a 100% reduction in something that didn't happen at all. So it's
Right.
an elimination
Yes,
of an
yes.
entire, so the
Yes.
review time, yes, that might, but then you get rid of steps in the process.
And I'll just say that's those metrics are in our most complex product content, our annuities product content. So that's pretty amazing because, and some of that has to be reviewed by a human. There may be content that's not product related in the future, maybe will not always have to be reviewed by a human.
Definitely, yeah.
So that's something that we're looking at as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love the question too, because actually you just sparked something in me, and that is AI is also helping us reimagine our workflow. So it's not just about slapping AI on top of what we're currently doing. It's how do we imagine the process itself. So because, we're even talking about, okay, how do we use Norm to pre-check all content before it even gets to a reviewer?
Right.
To give, a flag, hey, this isn't working. We do have some capability in Writer that we're using today, but your platform is trained on these new rules. And as they come out, right, it's important to stay on top of that.
Right.
And that is exactly what we did, where we reviewed our entire compliance process for marketing before we layered Norm on top of it, because we found there were some inefficiencies. In some cases, content was getting reviewed twice. It was being pre-screened and then sent to another team.
Right.
And then we were asking the questions, well, why do we need that? Because if you don't do that, just layering on AI will actually slow down the process. And the one thing AI is very good at is exposing your strengths and the gaps that you have.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jess. I'm a digital tech and emerging media student here at Fordham. And both of you mentioned a little bit about how you're making your employers feel comfortable with the use of AI and marketing it to them to use these programs and agents. How are you making the customers and advisors comfortable with the use of it?
So similarly, advisors want to use AI too. They have other use cases where they want to use it to ultimately make them better advisors. Be more prepared for that meeting, have a better fruitful conversation. From a employee perspective, we're obviously talking about marketing, but we have done a lot internally across the enterprise, and truly. In our GI business, for instance, we've been using AI for a long time. So it's not something new, but I would say democratizing it across all of the company is new. So we just recently, most companies, launched Copilot. So getting people more familiar with using AI and making it part of their daily work is important. And I will say there are evangelists, I'm one of them, where I oftentimes get asked to speak and train people on how to use AI responsibly. Because that's another key part is like, okay, well, how do we showcase the best practices and get everyone aware of what's happening and how they can use it? Because I think that's especially one of the bigger questions is, well, what can I do? I don't want to do something that is inappropriate or wrong or what have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi. I found your presentation to be remarkable. Thank you. My name is Scott Lang. I'm a former board member of the AMA and consultant of the Singleton Foundation for Financial Literacy and Entrepreneurship. Oh, here you go. I have a question, and this is outside of what you're talking about today, but since you're talking about AI, have you thought about empowering the consumer-facing side of your business, the advisors or the financial planners that are working with you in the retail side, if you call it that, to empower both them and their prospects or clients in using AI to understand their through behavioral science their money behaviors, their money personality. Have you ever thought about that and how that might help you engage with them and provide better proposals?
Yeah, that's a great question. So on the behavior side, I don't know if you can answer that piece, but I think in terms of like bringing insights, so we call it Advisor Connect. And so our advisors are actually gaining insights about their book of business and helping them prepare. We also have Jump AI, which helps them prepare for their next meeting with their clients as well. Again, to make sure that they're having those fruitful conversations. It also will generate meeting notes, so they're easily kind of having a better client experience overall. From a behavioral science perspective, yes, I mean, we do have some capabilities that we're working on. I'm not privy to all of it. Maybe you know more than I do, but we do have a data science team that is looking at all of that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add specific to that, but yes, for our own advisors, absolutely. And also for our wholesalers who are selling to advisors, they are also using AI, to offload a lot of the administrative tasks so they can spend more time with the advisors. Also, in terms of being able to simplify and really break down some of the complex topics. And then also products help them help their customers with the right product selection. So I think that's a really big one too, because I don't even know how many annuities, but we sell so many annuity products, and there's just so many factors that are involved in that as well, and it's a very complex space.
Will asset management
And
asset management be next?
And asset management, yeah.
Yeah. Great question.
Hi, Andy Cohen, Pro-Relevant Marketing Solutions. So I don't think anyone in this room would argue great presentation and that marketers help the sales team do their jobs better. Have you been able to do any attribution as to how much your AI efforts have actually improved sales?
We can on the personalization front.
Oh, so like
Yeah.
the 135
Yeah.
engagement piece, yeah. So from that, well, that was more of a consumer side. So the next best action from that page, for instance, was connecting with an advisor. So we are measuring like how many conversions we did get from that, but there is kind of an ecosystem. So we have about 7,000 pages on Prudential.com. About 3,000 to 4,000 of them are the advisors themselves. So we are trying to attribute sales to that. Out of the one program that we have, it's called Find a Financial Professional, and that generates millions of dollars in revenue every year. So by having that page, I don't have the exact number, but we are able to attribute revenue to it just based upon us driving traffic to it.
And I'll say also that we're able, with all the experimentation we use a product called Adobe Target, and through all of that, we have been able to attribute the personalization into the engagement, into the whether it's our own advisors, scheduling appointments, or incremental sales, because we do use a marketing mix model for attribution, and it's broken out by every single channel, whether it's paid channels or email channels. And so that velocity of the personalization and the speed to market, we are able to attribute that.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
My name is Michelle Fino. Hi, Scott. I'm going to pick on you because I know you too. I am running my own agency. I'm not a student. I'm way too old to be a student, and a recovering CMO, so I can say that as well. My question is more existential and the inverse of AI. If AI is supposed to give us all this time back and efficiency in our operations, 25%, 35%, 100%, my question is, should people be also presenting what we do with all that extra time? And the answer should not be firing people, for the record. Thank you, Amazon. Yeah. Should it be self-care, social impact, mental health? I mean, clearly, this country needs more mental health. So what should we be doing with all of our time that has been being given back to us?
So I love this question. I think you can more intently focus on making yourself better as a marketer. I mean, I think like it's more than just saying like, oh, I'm gonna focus on my mental health, but it's like, hey, like I actually have time back to think. Because I find, especially with marketing, when you're the one making the flyers and writing all the content and all that stuff, you don't have time to be strategic always. And so I do think that you're able to be more strategic. So you can focus on finding that new segment. You do have the time to go into customer journey analytics and like you find out like who's been added, like who can you target next. I call it doing more with the same. I don't call doing it more with less, just because we don't want to let go of the talent we have. We may not be hiring more people, but it's more along the lines of like, hey, what can we do more of to enhance our impact?
I completely agree. The other thing I'll add is like what we have seen is with our creative folks, our in-house creative agency, they're actually taking that time and sitting down with the business and actually building that relationship, which before it was just production. You know, it was like throw it over the fence, do this, but then it's like because you're not sitting down and actually understanding what the business is looking for and more about what problem you're trying to solve, you're going back and you're creating a number of things, and then it's always you send it back and then you get all these edits because you haven't actually taken the time because you don't have the time, because I feel like marketing has become such a production shop.
I also am not a student. And I've been in corporate America long enough to know that is a really rosy view. And what I'm wondering, what you're doing to combat more. So you might not be letting people go, although many companies are, but you could do more. We could send out more. We could do more campaigns. We could do more. Yeah. So how are you presenting that? Because more isn't always more, and sometimes the customer is going to be like, stop contacting me. So how do you combat that?
Yeah. So we've actually cut a lot of work we actually have cut quite a bit of work. We've stopped work that isn't delivering, and that is not, so we're definitely prioritizing. And I'll just kind of speak to that. So we implemented, this is, I think only going to help the AI, but it's not technically related to AI. We implemented an agile operating model in marketing, not on the development side, but on the campaign side of the house. So that really allows us to prioritize outcomes and not output. So that is one way that we've seen it be effective in terms of prioritizing the work. So everyone's at the table, and it's not just like a content factory or a volume play.
It can't, more does not equal more, but when we say more, we mean more focus. Like, how do we really solve customer challenges or advisor challenges or think about a new idea and then using AI to help execute it?
And I think the challenge too is that the demand for marketing doesn't go down.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. Even if you're not just doing more for more, there are new product launches. So like there's got to be something, you got to do something for that. And so we are trying to prioritize the work. And I will say in the 3 years that I've been at Prudential, when I first joined, all the work was first in, first out for all these execution teams. And that's changed. That alone, forget AI, but that was, that alone was a huge change because the compliance team was just review whatever was coming in. And then there was no priority of what had to go out.
Hi, I'll try to be brief. I'm Michelle Liang, and I actually have a couple of questions that I could take offline. But one key thing right now, first of all, I want to say that I love how complimentary you both are with your responses. So it really shows you as dynamic duo. And on that note, I also see how awesome that you consolidate solutions in order to innovate, which is, I think, the best way to scale and sustain. And so on that note, from a marketing perspective, because I consult some small businesses on their marketing efforts, I'm curious, what surprised you in this whole process and all the use cases?
I'll say we've been on a 3-year journey, so this did not happen overnight. And the 3-year journey was really around introducing and modernizing marketing. That's when I started at Prudential. So it's been on that journey, and we, in some ways, we're also just getting started, but it's not easy. So, I'm just going to take, the example with Norm. These tools are not they could be plug and play, but that's not where to get the effectiveness. There's a lot of, whether it's MarTech tools or AI tools, you can't plug and play, you can't shift and lift. You really need to customize them. Mm-hmm. Even with Norm, even though, they have all the SEC, FINRA, some state insurance regulations, we have to upload all of our policy guidelines. Mm-hmm. And we had to work with Norm, side by side. Actually, Patrick specifically, which we're very fortunate, but we literally work with the COO of Norm, on a daily basis, weekly basis, to really customize and make sure that the tools work for us. So I would say for anyone really thinking about, AI, it's not something that can just be done or onboarded overnight. And that doesn't even address the change management piece. Of course, that's a whole nother, area. So I would say it takes a lot of work also.
I was surprised about the work, but I would do it all over again. This is the best job I've ever had, quite frankly. I think the other thing that was surprising was the fact that people actually would listen to me. And I say that as a joke, but I started in this role about 1.5 years ago, right? And it takes relationship building. But what we found through all of this, and the beautiful part about this is that there was a need. We didn't just make people use AI, they wanted to. And it wasn't me, I didn't convince them. I was there to get over the speed bumps. But people's willingness to use it because they do feel kind of in their gut that this is going to be the future, that's something that surprised me the most. And then, being able to share this with all of you, I'm just so honored that I'm able to do that. So thank you.
And I think it's because people are using AI in their personal lives. The consumer adoption, has accelerated significantly. And that's helping the employee adoption. And you are starting to see employees ask, well, before we introduce the, some of the tools, because we do have an enterprise ChatGPT-like tool, but there's a lot of restrictions. And so folks who have used the writer tool that's got the brand voices in there, and it's, all the brand guidelines, and then they use the more generic one, are really seeing the difference.
Yeah. All right, thanks to our moderator and panelists for sharing their insights. And of course, thanks to everyone here for being part of the conversation on how AI is transforming marketing. If you have questions about AMA New York, come find me at the 3rd floor reception or chat with my partner in all things programming, Rasika Narang. If you are interested in learning about Marketing Hall of Fame, our Marketing Hall of Fame committee is here today. Can you guys give a quick wave? These are the people to speak with if you have questions about Marketing Hall of Fame. And AMA New York's next event is a webinar on December 10th. All right, have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.